Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to the bunker. It's time for another voicemail. Today's voicemail is from an anonymous caller. Let's listen to what they have to say.
Hey Lloyd, wanted to reach out to you. It was so interesting how one of your recent videos actually helped me reconnect with my parents, who I'd basically been estranged with for a couple of years after leaving the organization. And it was actually because of the one on how you were talking about the finished mystery, that little rebuttal there. And I was just watching it. I had just finished, and I was thinking about the fact that I'm like, I probably have that book kicking around in my library. And I got a text from my mother asking if I actually still had that and if they could borrow it because they're doing some research and just wanted to look through some of the old books. And I was finding that odd because I don't hear from my family basically ever. And I just asked and I said, well, I can look and see if I have it. What do you guys need it for? What research are you doing? And turns out they're wanting to look at the book after watching your video. They've been watching your videos for years, and I had no idea. It's kind of insane to me. My dad and mom, they served in circuit work ages ago. To give context, dad was born in 39, mom in 42. So they had seen so many different changes. And so I called her after reading her response, and I'm like, hey, I'm very intrigued by your recent text. You want the book because of wanting to look into things? Because her text was really interesting because she said, talking about just having to accept the truth getting brighter. And I'm like, this is not normal for what I was expecting. I thought they were very much preemie and lifers because that's how I was raised. And I'm the youngest of four kids. And turns out they're just trying to figure a way to get out, and they've been thinking something's wrong with this organization for over a decade. They're in a complicated situation, trying to get out in their 80s, and with one of my sisters who's and her husband, who are both regular pioneers, living in their suite beneath my folks. It's very complicated, but I thought I'd let you know that I thought I would have no relationship with my parents in general, and this has opened a door for us to start talking more. I talked with my dad for the first time in 3 years because we had other issues come up, and by chatting about your video, about the organization, about the different interviews you've done, and how it helped, broaden our viewpoints, it was fantastic to be able to reconnect with people you thought you had lost and had no chance of connecting with really in any serious way. So I thought you'd find that interesting. Turns out they've been watching your videos far longer than I have, and I've been literally disfellowshipped and out of the organization for a couple of years. So it was very eye-opening, and also actually makes sense on all the little things that I had thought about through my life on just how my parents didn't follow every rule exactly, and they were a little bit more outside the box thinkers in some ways. So it was fantastic to be able to gain some family back, and I appreciate that you make these videos because you helped me to reconnect with them, and you also helped me reconnect with my friend Stephen O'Keefe, who you interviewed a couple of years ago. So thank you. I appreciate that. And I know you get tons of messages and different things, so no worries about replying. I know you're busy, but I just thought you might like to know, hey, here's another example of how your work brought about some really good things. So I've reconnected with old friends I never thought I'd talk with again specifically, and I reconnected and going down a path of reconnecting well with my parents because of your videos. Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Wow, what a great message. That this really put a smile on my face. And typically, I try to stick to messages where there's a question, where someone needs some advice or something like that. There's no question here. I just wanted to play the voicemail because it's like a feel-good story, this. I mean, your experience is basically motivation for me to carry on. And it's also hopefully motivation, or at least positivity, for those XJWs who do have believing parents, maybe even believing parents who are entering their later years. In your case, your parents are, I think you said, in their 80s. Well, if even people in their 80s are waking up, anyone can wake up, can't they? And I get it. There are certain situations where, especially if it's like one spouse and they're in their 70s or 80s and their partner is still believing. I understand there are situations where sometimes you think, well, surely it's better not to burst their bubble at this late point in their lives. But you'd be surprised. I think many of us would be surprised at how meaningful truth is, how meaningful a grip on reality can be, even if you have invested your entire life in following the organization. Even just getting the last few years to yourself with the freedom to think for yourself and be yourself and ask questions you were always forbidden from asking. Never underestimate what that means to someone. And this particular story just highlights that for me, and highlights the fact that maybe we shouldn't give up on the previous generation quite so easily. In my own case, I just think my dad is the sort of person who is incapable of thinking for himself. I think, quite apart from the whole issue of being in a cult, he's just not the sort of person who ever wants to rock the boat or think outside the box. But not everyone's like my dad. And I think it's important to manage expectations. I don't think this is how it's going to work out in every case, quite clearly. I'm not going to do what Mark Sanderson was doing at the convention and say, never give up hope. That's the attitude you're expected to have as a Jehovah's Witness. If you have family members who are disfellowshipped, if you have unbelieving relatives, you're supposed to never give up hope. I think sometimes you do need to give up hope, or you do need to at least manage your expectations. But isn't it nice to hear stories like this that indicate that even in situations where you never imagined someone waking up, they can wake up? Life throws these curveballs, doesn't it? And sometimes the curveballs can be negative. Sometimes you have setbacks and problems. But sometimes, out of the blue, something really beautiful can happen. And I'm absolutely thrilled that something I've done on this channel has helped in this way. I think I know which video you're talking about. I think it was the May 2021 rebuttal, because when I was answering some of what Ken Cook was saying about the history of the organization, I brought up the Finished Mystery, and I was telling witnesses to look for themselves what's in the Finished Mystery, because the organization repeatedly refers to it as though it's some magical book that was fulfilling prophecy, but they never actually make it easy for witnesses to read what's in the pages for themselves and form their own conclusions as to whether it was actually a good book or not. So I'm really, really glad. I mean, I make these videos and say these things, never imagining that they could have that sort of impact. And apart from this being a feel-good story for those of you who have believing parents who you never imagined could wake up, hopefully this is also a feel-good story to motivate those of you who are either involved in YouTube activism or thinking of getting involved in YouTube activism. You just never know, do you, what impact you might have when you put a video out there. And you could just do it at the spur of the moment on your smartphone. And you could just think, you know what, I want to say this, and I want to put it out there onto YouTube. You just never know who's going to watch it and what impact it's going to have. So if you're watching this as someone who really wishes their parents would wake up someday, again, manage your expectations, but at least draw a little bit of hope from this that yes, it is possible. But also if you are a YouTube content creator, I hope that you will view this story as your success too, because I view this as a shared endeavor. And if one of my videos can produce this sort of result, there's no reason at all why the same can't happen with other creators and other videos. The work we're doing is making an impact. And goodness knows I talk about enough depressing stuff on this channel. It's nice to have a feel-good story, something positive for a change. So thank you so much for calling in with that story. You have put a smile on my face and I really appreciate it. But that's all I have to say on this message. Don't forget that if you would like to leave a voicemail, the thing to do is visit speakpipe.com/Cedars, remembering to indicate clearly if you don't want your message to be broadcast on the channel. But that's it. Don't forget to subscribe to the Lloyd Evans channel for more such videos. And as always, thank you for watching.